Hello everyone, today we're learning Mציעא Daf Yud Zayin. So we're going to start from Tezayin and base one line up. V'kafron oil ve'osa liyodon nema b'milsa. We learned before about Kafron, someone who lies, so that he's not trustworthy after he lied. We're going to say something about that din of Kafron. The Omar of Yosef bar Minyumi, Omar of Nachman, Ormuloi tzeiten loi, v'omar parati, ne'emon, omil v'lichtoiv, ein koisvim. ונויפים לוי. חייב אתה ליתן לוי ואומר פרטי אינו נאמון בומיל ולכתוב כויספים ונויפים לוי. So, Rav Yosef bar Minyumi says in the name of Rav Nachman, depends what Besdin paskin. If Besdin paskin tzeten loi, go out and pay already what you owe. They say, Reuven, you owe Shimon £1,000. And now he says, I paid it off after the Besdin said tzeten. He said I paid it off. We trust him. Rashi says with a shvuas heses, a shvur derabonon. And bo mil velichtoiv, and the malve comes to Besdin and says, I want you to write me a shtar that he owes me money. And he said I paid it off already. So we don't trust the malve. We say no, he paid off because Besdin will mechayev him. We trust him that he paid. The if Bezdin didn't say go pay him, they just said he's chayev, but they didn't say he should go pay already. And now he says he paid off. He's not trustworthy, and he's like a kafrin. He's not trustworthy. And if the Malve wants to write a shtar that he owes him money, Bezdin's going to write him a shtar. They'll give the Bezdin a shtar. Rav Zvid mishmei de Rav Nachman Omar ben tzeiten loi ben chayev atan liten loi v'omar parati ne'emon. V'omil v'lichtov ein koitziv b'noitzim loi. Rav Zvid argues. He says in the name of Rav Nachman, not like what before we said in the name of Rav Nachman. He says that doesn't matter if he said chayev liten loy, tzeten loy. If the loyve says I paid it off afterwards, we trust the loyve b'shvur seses because Besdin will mechayev him already, and we're not going to give the malve a shtar to say they owes him money. And he continues Rav Zvid, and he said, "Elai keleflugi ochel do keleflugi." If you want to do a chilik between tzei and 10. Ben tzeiten loy and chayev ataliten loy, I'll tell you the difference. Amuloi tzeiten loy v'omar parati v'edim oitim oisay shaloi paroi uchzakar loy simomon. Chayev ataliten loy v'omar parati v'edim oisay shaloi paroi v'chozav v'omar parati loy uchzakar loy simomon. My timer ishtimutu do komishtavet milei sova adem me'ainu be rabbonon bedina. So, if you want to make a chilik between tzei and chayev, so this is the case. If Besdin said, say, go pay already, and he said he paid off, and Eidim come and say that he never paid, so Huch Zakar, now we look at him as a liar regarding to this money, and we will never trust that he paid off until he has Eidim that he paid off. But if they only said, Chayev, they never said, go pay, they just said, you have to, you Chayev, but no, they didn't say, go pay already, and he said, I paid off, and then Eidim say that he didn't pay, and then later on he said again, after Bezdin said, you go need say 10 loy, and they said, I did pay. We don't say he's a liar. Why? Because he says, you know why? The first time he said Parati was because they never told me yet say 10 loy. They only said Chayev, and he thought that Bezdin might still find a reason why he's potter. And that's why he said Parati, just to delay, to get him off his shoulder. But really, he's not considered a liar. He's a mishtamet. Omar Rabba bar Rav Chana Omar Rabbi Yochanan moneli biotcho v'lo yemelicho biodi klum v'edim meidim oisei sheyesh loi v'chozav v'omar parati uchzakar lo yisei moment. So Rabba bar Rav Chana says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Reuben comes to Shimon and says, you owe me a money, and he says, I don't owe you anything. And then we have Eidim to say that he does owe him, and so now he has to pay. And now he said, I paid. We don't trust him. He's a kafrin for this money because he said he paid when he never paid, and only when Eidim come and said now he's saying he paid again, we don't trust him. And therefore, he's only trustworthy if he has a shoiva, a receipt, or Eidim. And the Gemara brings a Aryeh from a story. Kehode Shabtoi Breder of Marinus. Shabtoi, the son of Marinus, Kosav lo lekalse, he wrote to his kala, Itztela de Milsa, a cloak of wool. Beksuvasa in a ksuva, Bekiblo ale, Irchas ksuvasa, she lost the ksuva, Oma lo yod varim oilam, I never promised you any wool cloak. In Kosavlo. No, Aiden came and said, no, in your ksuba it said that you're going to give a wool cloak. We saw that. Then he said that later on, he said, oh, I gave already the cloak made out of wool. Also, he came in front of Reb Chia. It's still, we don't trust you regarding this cloak. Once you lied about once, we don't trust you anymore. Says the Gemara weiter, Omar Abin, Omar Abilo, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Oy chayav lechaver shvo, v'omar nishbati, v'edim moisei shel nishba, uch zakafron lo yitzei shvo. Someone, Reuven, had to make a shvo to Shimon, and he told Shimon, I made a shvo already. And the Edim say, no, he never made a shvo. So we don't trust him anymore about this shvo, only if he makes it in front of Edim. Amrua kamed Ravo, they said this thing in front of Ravo. Amalu, he said, Mistabra Mr. Rav Abin, Lechera, the din of Rav Abin only applies, Shenischayev Shvo bebezdin, with this Chiyuv Shvo is a proper Chiyuv, the Bezdin will mechayev him to make a Shvo. Aval Chiyuv Atzmo Shvo, if he himself, Reuven, told him, I'll make you a Shvo, no Bezdin will mechayev him a Shvo. Ne'amon, Ovid Inish, the Mikro Be'oma. Even though that he said he made a Shvo, and he didn't come and say he didn't make a Shvo, later on he's Ne'amon to say he made a Shvo. Why? Because the whole chiyuv of the shvur was from himself, that day he said, I made the shvur was just to push him away, because he doesn't want to make a shvur now. The whole chiyuv is because I was mechayiv myself a shvur. Leave me alone, I'll make a shvur when I'm ready to make a shvur. Don't be mechayiv make a shvur right now. And therefore, if later on he says he did make a shvur, we trust him. I drew to Kameder of Abin, they sent this back to Rav Abin, this chilik between a shvur bebezdin and a shvur that person was mechayiv himself. I agree with this. I also only said this, and I meant only a Shvo bebezdin. Itmanami, we learned as well that Rav Abin said it clearly only bebezdin. Omar Rav Abin, Omar Rabbi Lo, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Oy chayav lechaver Shvo bebezdin, and it was in bezdin. V'omar nishbati v'edim moisi moisi shelo nishba. Uch zekafron lo yisei shvo. And it says over here there is uch zekafron, especially when it was a chiyuv of Shvo bebezdin. So here Rav Abin is saying it very clear that only a shvur of bezdin will say huch zakafron, it's a shvur, but if it's a shvur of himself that he was mischayiv on himself, you don't say huch zakafron. Omar Rabasi, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, moitzi shtarchoi bashuk, v'koso by enpek, v'koso by zmano by bayom, yachzir lebailim, imishum kosav lilvoitz v'loi lova, v'koso by enpek, imishum proan lepura basiyom eloi chashinan. So Rabasi says the name of Rabbi Yochanan, someone finds a shtarchoi, it says Reuven owes Shimon 1,000 pounds, and it says it was signed by Bezdin that this is a good start, and was found today, and the date in the star where the loan happened was also today. So it says Rabbi Yochanan, even though that normally I'm choishesh v'puron, in this case I'm not choishesh v'puron, because if what the chashosh is, you should give it back, because whatever happens you should give it back. Because if we choishesh maybe the loan only happened the later day, even the date that's written in the star, you're not choishesh because it's today's date. And if it's because maybe you wrote it and you never did the loan at the end, you at the end never took the loan, there's a handpick, there's a chasima of Bezdin that this is a good star, so obviously they know that the loan happened. And if maybe he paid him back already, we're not choishes that on the day of the star when the loan happened, that day he already paid back, and therefore you should give it back to the malve. Omar Rab Zera Rab Asi, mi Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Ochi, Ho'at Uda Omris Mishmei Rabbi Yochanan, Shtar Shalova Boy Por, Ein Choyze Velova Boy Shekvanim Chal Shir Bodoi. Amos, Ilem Ale Mochalo Mechor Ma'ir Shekvanim Chal Shir Bodoi. Tepu Kleda Vale Mukde Vetnan Shtar Choyva Mukdom Psulim. Ela Beyoime Alme Pare In Shibiyoime. So Rab Zera asked Rav Asi a kasha. Did Rabbi Yochanan say so? You told us in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that if you used a document for a loan that says Reuven owes 1,000 pounds to Shimon, and then Reuven paid off Shimon 1,000 pounds, and now you want to do another loan, again of 1,000 pounds from Reuven to Shimon, you can't do it, because this document, once it's used once, you can't use it a second time. Says Rab Zera, when are we talking about? If it's talking about that it says in the date Aleph Benisan and we are standing in Iyah, so nothing to do with Nimchal Shibudoi, this is not a good star, because it's a star mukdam, and we learned in the Mishnah that star mukdam is possible. Elamai must be talking about that it says Aleph Nisan, and you want to use it again on Aleph Nisan. And we could see, how does it make sense using a star twice on Aleph Nisan? Obviously, he paid back on Aleph Nisan, so you could see sometimes people do pay back on the same date. Omar lei miko amine de loy pori klal, de loy shlichin she de pori b'yoy miko amine. I never said that there's never such a circumstance that someone takes a loan today and pays it off today. For sure, it could happen, and if it happens, we're telling you that you shouldn't use the star again. All what I said over here is that it's not shchiach, and we don't have to be choishish for that. And if you find a star that's written in today's date, you can give it back to the malva. Rav Kahana says a din of Rabbi Yochanan that said that if you find a star at today's date, you give it back to the malva. It's talking about where the loiva agrees they never paid back yet. Says the Gemara, Yochim Eile Meimer, what's the chiddush? Obviously, you should give it back. Says the Gemara, the tema hayomi for a pari. By the korma loy parati mishum nikaboy madel misva bezim nachruti. ולפשיט את הספר חייש, כמש מלונדים, כן מלפה גופי לא ישוב הכסור השמי ברבונו נמפסדי לי. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you what the Chiddush. The Chiddush is, you might think that really, you know why the loiva is moida, that he never paid back? Really, he did pay back. So why is he saying he didn't pay back? Because he wants to get back the star, and he wants to use it for a new loan, and to use it the second time. And the Chiddush says that we're not choishish for that. Why not? Because the Malva would never let such a thing happen. Because for the Malva, he's taking a risk. He's using a shtar shenimchal shebudoy. And if Bezdin find out about it, they won't let him be goiva for mishubodim. So he's going to lose out. So why should he take any risks? That's a Chiddush. And we're not choishish because the Malva won't be willing to use a shtar twice. Ask the Gemara, what's the difference from we learned in the Mishnah? So the Gemara, what's the difference from the Mishnah that it says that if you found a loan document and it has a chrayas, it has a guarantee in it, you shouldn't give it back. And we said it's tuma when the loiva is moida. And the reason why you shouldn't give it back is because we're choishish, maybe the loan document was written on Nisan and the loan only happened on Tishrei. And if you give it back, he's going to be goiva from the guarantee, from lekuchois, from Nisan. And really the loan happened only in Tishrei. Why are we choishish for that? We said the Malva never wants to use a apostle dikashtar. And that's a apostle dikashtar because it's written one date and the loan happened a later date. So why are we choishish over there that we do use apostle dikashtar? So the Gemara Amri also, Mishum de Isli Ravcha, the Kotorif lekuches Nisan Vatishra, minach nichele velo arma velo imidi. Och keven de Lesli Ravcha, the soif star Eid Niksiv, my ike the Kotorif lekuches, b'shtar shenimcha shibudo lo shavik. So the Gemara, there's a big difference. Over there, the Malva is gaining. What the Malva is gaining? The Malva is gaining that if he uses a shtar on Tishrei that was written in Nisan, he could take from guarantees from people who he sold the loiva fields from Nisan. So he's gaining half a year of a stronger guarantee. So he's willing to take the risk to use not a good shtar. But by us, what is he gaining? Is that he's using a shtar from today on the same date twice. He's just using a postal shtar and he's not gaining anything. So he's not willing to take the risk and he'll make sure to write a new shtar. But when he is gaining, we are choishish and maybe there was a psul in the shtar. Says the Gemara, Omar Rabbi Barabba, Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Barabba says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Toy Nacha Maise Bezdin Yudayna Mudbei, someone who says after Maise Bezdin, that means something that Bezdin is mechayev you, let's say, Mother Neishav Abonoy, that you have to give money to your wife to feed her, and the daughters, and he says, I paid back, Loy Omar Veloy Klum. He didn't say nothing, we don't trust him. If he doesn't have a receipt to say that he paid it, we don't trust him. My time, what the reason, anything that's a chiyuv from Bezdin, it's like he has a shtar. And let's explain a little more. That normally, if someone takes a loan from his friend and he says Prati, we trust him if there's no document. And if there's a document, he's not trust until if the document's still in the hands of the malve. He needs a shoiva. But that's by a normal loan. But says Rabbi Yochanan Chiddush that by a loan that best didn't mechayev you to pay like more than Aisha v'abonois, even though there's no shtar, you're not trustworthy to say parati like you normally trustworthy to say parati by milva al peh. Why? Because when Bezdin or Mechayev you, it's as if the Malva has a star in his hand, even though they doesn't have, and the Loiv is only trust if he has Eidim or he has a receipt. Omale Rabbi Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan v'la Mishnah seinu zu tzir get v'inu maksuva goy v'ksuva also. Rabbi Chia asked Rabbi Yochanan, what's your chiddush? It's a Mishnah. It says if a woman comes with a get, and it doesn't, even if she doesn't have a ksuva, she takes a ksuva, and a ksuva is a ma'aseh Bezdin. Or why the husband not neman to say parati? Elamai, because ma'aseh Bezdin, a person's not neman to say parati until he has a edim or a receipt. Or malay, he left the doli loy chaspa loy mashkach smagarini so tuta. He told him, yeah, enochinami, we see this din from the Mishnah. But if not me explaining this din, you wouldn't understand from the Mishnah by itself that that's the chiddush of the Mishnah. So basically, it's like in the sea, there's like a coral, and underneath it is diamonds. So if I wouldn't pick up the coral, the chaspa, you wouldn't see the diamonds underneath. So once I told you this din, now you understand that that's the din of the Mishnah. But enochinami, we could see it in the Mishnah, but that's why I'm chadash you that that's the din in the Mishnah. Omar Abaye, Marmar Ginosa, Abaye said, what's a diamond over here? It's not true, there's no raya from the Mishnah. Dilma b'mokom shein koisim ksuva skina and the get ein ksuva sa mokom shekoisim ksuva in a kitna ksuva gabi loy gabi. Says Abaye, there's no raya b'chlal from the Mishnah. Why? Because the Mishnah, where it says that even without the ksuva she could be goiva, maybe it's Toma in a place where the minig was not to write the ksuva, and therefore she comes with a get. Therefore, she's trustworthy to claim until he has a receipt. Be'enochinami, in a place where you do write a ksuva, if you write in Mokim, you do write a ksuva. Maybe if she doesn't have a ksuva, we don't trust her. And the Mishnah is talking about in a place where you do write a ksuva. That's why we trust her without a ksuva. Ota Omar Abaye Lavni will say the Amrit Isal Kedaitok Mokum Shen Koisim Ksuva Skina Mokum She Koisim Ksuva Inakitna Ksuva Gabi Iloi Gabi Almona Minerusim B'mai Gabi Beide Mrs. Abal Litem B'nei Parate V'chitei Mochinam Imken Ma'oli Chachom B'takonosom. Said the Rabbi, I can't be doicha why I said this with no raya from the Mishnah. There is a raya from the Mishnah, because the Mishnah can't be talking about in a case where en koisim ksuva, but if you write a ksuva, you need a ksuva, and otherwise you can't be goiva. Because if so, almona from erusin, that she gets a ksuva, and soon we're going to see if she actually gets a ksuva. How will she claim? Because the ksuva you only write by the nisuim. So she doesn't have a ksuva. How will she get her ksuva? And the Rishonim say you can't be talking about that she takes a ksuva. In such a case, she'll take a ksuva without a ksuva. Because if so, it comes out from the erusim, a woman gets more than the nisuim, and that doesn't make sense. And if you're going to tell me that the husband could say parati, so if so, the whole ksuva is not valuable. The husband could always get out of it. There's no value for it. It doesn't make sense. Elomai. It must be that the Mishnah is talking about the mokum shekoisim ksuva. And afilu achi she's trustworthy without a ksuva. Why? Because kol hatoy nachamai sebezdin lo yamar klum. And we do have a raya from the Mishnah to Rabbi Yochanan. Omale marka shisha breder of Chizder Rav Ashi, Valmona min eresim deisik suval min nolon. Your whole raya, like Rabbi Yochanan, is only from the fact that Almona from eresim gets a ksuva, and how will she be going for a ksuva? She doesn't have a ksuva. How do you actually know that the Almona from the eresim before marriage, only from eresim, only from engagement, she gets a ksuva? Maybe she doesn't get a ksuva b'chlal. If you realize that she gets a ksuva from this Mishnah, that says a woman who is amelon is garsha, who she has been died or got divorced. It doesn't matter if she was only engaged or if she was married. She takes a whole ksuva. So we could see she gets a ksuva already from erusin. No. Maybe that's talking about a case where you actually specially specified that she should get ksuva already from the erusin. But in a normal case, she doesn't get. And if you're going to tell me if it's written clearly, what's the chiddush? No, they'll tell you what's the chiddush. That even if a person wrote clearly a ksuva from erusin, And if he died or divorced her before Erusin, before Nisuim, doesn't have to pay, even though that he wrote the ksuva. Because the only reason why he wrote the ksuva is al menasa, he's going to marry her, and he didn't marry her, so he doesn't have to pay it. It's shrilechele. That's the chiddush of the mission over there, to tell you that not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that if you wrote it clearly, even if you die before Nisuim, you have to pay the ksuva. They kanami, and I'll bring you a duke that that's the case that's talking about where he wrote it clearly. The Ktoni Goyve Sakoil, that says she claims everything. And everything means more than just the actual mono mosaim. Iyamad bishnim and the kosav law, he wrote it clearly a ksuva, ein in the Ktoni Goyve Sakoil, she's goyve whatever says in that ksuva, and if it's more than mono mosaim, she's goyve everything. Eli Iyamad the loy kosav law, that's on my way, didn't write anything. My goyve sakoil mono mosaim dislo. She should only get the basic thing. Mono mosaim. What's goyve sakoil? It must be talking about in a case where he wrote a ksuva clearly. So in a case where he wrote a ksuva, obviously she gets from Erusin. But maybe in a place where he didn't write anything from Erusin, you don't get anything. Ve'elo, I'll tell you maybe where Abai knows his din from. The Tony Rab Chia Barami, from the Brisa of Rab Chia Barami, it says Ishte Arusa, a woman who you engage to, loy oinen veloy mitamelo, if he's a kohen and or a normal person, and when she dies, he doesn't have a din oinen, and he's not allowed to be mitama for her like Shiva Kroivim because he's not married yet. V'chein he, if she's a kohenes loy nenes veloy mitamelo, she doesn't have a din oinen who potum a mitzvahs on the first day that he passes away, and she doesn't become toma from him. Meso, if she died, Eina Yerusha, doesn't get a Yerusha. Mesu, if he dies, Goyve Ksuva, she takes a Ksuva. So we could see this is Toma min Erusin, and she gets a Ksuva. So maybe Abai knew from over here that a woman from Erusin gets a Ksuva. Says the Gemara, no, that's not Raya. The Kosav law, it's talking about where he clearly wrote to her Ksuva, and the Chiddush is that she gets a Ksuva. And the Kosav law, if he wrote it clearly, what's the Chiddush that she gets the Ksuva if he dies? The Chiddush is that even though that she gets a ksuva, if she dies, he doesn't yarshan her. You don't say, oh, since he promised a ksuva, so it's both ways. If he dies, he has to pay the ksuva. His yarsha have to pay ksuva. Or if he divorces her, he has to pay the ksuva. Therefore, if she dies, he yarshans her. No, even that if she dies, she still doesn't yarsha her, only from a nisuim. So you don't have no raya from anywhere that the almona or grusha from everything gets a ksuva if he didn't specifically write a ksuva. It's not naturally like from nisuim. So how is Abai doiche the raya that he had? Said the Gemara, Elo Abai migufa de masnisin ka'od Abai. Abai changed his mind. The reason why he said the Tizarite to Rabbi Yochanan from the gufa of the Mishnah. This hal kedai toch b'mokum shein koisim ksuva askinan. To get ainu ksuvasa. If you want to tell me the Mishnah over there, like Abai suggested to say, it's talking about in a place where you don't write the ksuva, and the get is instead of the ksuva, or to get mono mosaim ksivbe. Does it say in the get how much the ksuva was? Was it a mone, like a woman who's almona who gets married, or it's mosaim of a psula? Doesn't say it inside. So how would you know how much to pay? If you're going to tell me because Rabbanon said that get is like a ksuva and it's like it's written inside, and we just need to know if she was almona or not almona, and therefore will be goyve mono mosaim liton v'leinu parati. You could always say I paid off. We tell him, if you paid off this get, the ksuba, that's basically this get, you should have torn up the get. Amalon, he says that he'll tell us, you know why I didn't tear this up? She didn't let me tear it up. As she said, I don't want you to tear this get up, because if you tear this get up, I won't be able to get married to anyone. People are going to say I'm a married woman. If you should tell him, you know what, you should have torn up the get and wrote on the get in Bezdin that this is really a good get, and the reason why we tore it up just to show that we paid the ksuva, but really she's divorced. And therefore, if you didn't do that, you can't be believed a parati. Says the Gemara, Otu called the Magbi bebeidine Magbi. If every time when a woman's going for ksuva is in Bezdin, that you could tell what the husband could say, I paid off, and it wasn't in Bezdin, so I couldn't tear it up because I couldn't write on it. It's a good get, but the reason why we torn it up because I paid the ksuva, because Bezdin only could do that, and I couldn't write that. and therefore I should be believed parati. Why am I not be believed to say parati? Elomai, we could see that kol ma'aseh bezdin, a person's not believed to say parati only if he has edim or shoiva. Everyone should have a very blessed, good week. Shkoyach.